Okay. Okay, this is where I'm looking at. I don't know if you can look at this. All right. I'm just going to break. I don't know if you can see that. It'll probably look very dark. It's literally a sea. It has to. It's a green sea. The grass is about a foot high. And the wind's coming in from the north. And as it blows over the grass. So it's like looking at the sea. And the sea, you get different levels of periodicity, of waves, as they superimpose upon one another. So when the wind blows up, you get this, not just the top surface. It could be very, very windy and the top surface is just being slashed. Or there are these intermediary waves or even vast waves, okay, big swelling and reductions. Depending if it gets in phase, depends how long the storm is and the rates at which the wind's blowing. But the land, of course, is not undulating. So all we've got is a foot of grass, which means that all we're going to do is going to have that effect of choppy water, in effect. Anyway. So, why am I recording this today? I'm recording this because I've come up with this XQ Maths, and hopefully I'm going to share with you some of it. In fact, while I'm blabbing, you can look at the maths of this. It's not really the maths. It is what we're looking at. This one, and it is. Woo, God. Okay, it is. Actually, or maybe we should be looking at that one. Okay, let's have a look at that one instead. Stop. Stop. Okay. We're looking at this screen. Bish. Okay. And this one, I've been looking at Pythagorean geometry and psychosocial. And I've created 4 documents. And these 4 documents refer to, sorry for that, manhandling you there. There are triangle centers. Okay, so this is possibly just to get you into the mindset. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create some, actually, wait a minute, if I share this now, publish artifact, this is the kind of experiment that I will run. So I'll create a slideshow. So all these documents here, I'm going to create a slideshow of what documents contain. This last one, the trajectory of exploration, which, there it is, yeah, is how we're going to explore this, because it's quite tricky, and it's to do with how do we how do we provide insight into what I'm talking about? And there's a difference between application of this XQ mathematics and implication. And implication is more to do with insight, okay? So it's whether the mathematics is insightful to the person looking at the mathematics and doing the mathematics. So basically, it's not mathematics being proven to you, and then we don't apply this mathematics to, for example, ants or to people or to sheep or to cats and dogs and psychosocial phenomena of various kinds. It is implications that one has a better appreciation and understanding of cats, dogs, animals, ants, babies, children, and the applications of potentially therapy and education, politics, and the whole thing, and also LLMs, okay? And that's what the trajectory of exploration is indicating. It's basically, we have to be careful about how we are doing this, but careful in the sense of for it to have any value whatsoever. Okay, because the chances are, like right now, there's nobody watching this. I mean, there is nobody watching this. Nobody ever will watch this probably. However, you're watching it, so hello. Now that switch from probability to actuality, you are implicit in that relationship. And you are actual in the relationship. Okay? And from my perspective, you're a possibility and a probability. But to maintain continuing talking to you as if you're a probability, that's the problem with our current technology and the use of writing or videos and so on and so forth. And so, one of its first applications, and the reason why I'm recording this, one of its first applications, and I've just postulated it at the end of this big yab, is that one of its first implications, and the first kind of experiment to show that this mathematics is useful, let's try it, let's do an experiment right now, is to reflect the actual current experience that you're having, which is you're looking at this video. Now, of course, if this is properly done, course 101, it would be, okay, have a look at this maths, have a look at this, start thinking about this. And somebody's already been through this process, knows kind of what they're doing, and therefore the person that's going to go through the experience, has been, that passage has been done, right? Now, I haven't done this passage, so it's all new. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this mathematics and, ooh, wow, that was a big jump, right? And just look at this mathematics, just look at this. No, it's dark, okay, so you might not be able to do it very well. All right. Okay, what is that? What's going on here? Okay, so it's just maths. Okay, so if you have 3 points, you have 2 different calculations for the centroid, which is G, and O is the circumcenter, I think it's called, circumcenter. So if you can't see it, but yeah, you can see it. You can just about see it if you kind of look. Okay, there is a dotted line around there, and that dotted line indicates that we're all in the circle. Okay, and that implied circle is that O. Okay, so if I move this to there, okay, the circle, you can't maybe see it very clearly, and I have to make it clearer. The circle goes A, B, around here to D, C, and goes all the way around to there, okay? And so that circle has a center there, all right? And that's external to this triangle. The centroid, however, is the mathematical center, like the center of gravity, if you wanted to call it that. However, the implied focus of this group is O. Go! That's another application. Go! Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! That's cool. That's so good. That's so good. This is so good. Okay. Now there's another center. Just in case you thought that was just like, wow. Okay. There's another center. And if we do this, we can see that the other center is H. Okay. Now, what is H? It's actually, it's the perpendicular. It's the perpendicular. So from that line, there's a perpendicular going up to A. And from this line, there's a perpendicular to C, and that's H. And it just so happens that the H is kind of related to the line of G and O. So if we put them all together, we have, oh, look, it's an equilateral triangle. Ooh, cool. Okay. That's the special case, okay? And this equilateral triangle is related to roots of unity. This is new, by the way. This is new. And roots of unity is my simple form of 1 to the n. So 1 to the n is like one-dimensional version of social engagement, where instead of thinking about separate people, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, 10 people, 10 people watching this right now and kind of enjoying it or exploring it or doing whatever they're doing, and doing it well in some form is 1 to the 10. Okay. And of course, if there's some that are not getting it, then it's 1 to the 5 that are getting it, and then 1 to the 4 are like, what is he talking about? And 1 to the 1 is just like, okay. And so you get different kind of like groupings, let's say. Now, that happens to be my first kind of level of insight, is that we can exploit this 1 to the n, which is conflates in our normal mathematics. But in our form of XQ mathematics, there is still meaning there. There is still meaning there. And we're making use of that to write our equations for it to have meaning. If you go from there to imaginary numbers, you get roots of unity. Roots of unity. Oh God, look. Okay, look, I can't explain everything. I want to explore this. So roots of unity basically creates this, right? And this is a third root of unity on an imaginary plane, on a basically a triangle. Okay, and if it was if the fourth root, if we had 4 of these, it would create a square. And if it's a pentagon, and so on and so forth. Now, the reason all this came about, and if you looked at the other documents, is because I just saw something which is equivalently, okay, I'm not going to explain that because I've explained it somewhere else, but basically you've got Pythagoras' theorem, you've got internal form of solution, the Pythagoras proof for the internal form. That obviously, if you drop a perpendicular, right, A down there, this left triangle is the triangle off of AB, so we can call that AB squared, okay, in a way, that side, plus the triangle on the right-hand side, which is dropped from AC, okay, that triangle, which is the area off of that line, is equal to, guess what? The area of the whole thing. The area of the whole thing. So it's a bit more obvious if I do that, for example, that this triangle on the left plus that one on the right is equal to, oh, guess what? The area of that one. Okay, not complicated. Okay, so similarly, the left-hand side, right, okay. So it's an internal proof. So instead of doing areas off the sides, we can do, that only works for right-angle triangles, okay? So basically, it's only when that is equal to a right angle, like about there. In fact, exactly there. Oh God, the relationships between these things is bonkers, okay? So it only works for this, Pythagoras' theorem. Oh, look, 90 degrees. All right, okay. So it has to be exactly 90 degrees. And then what it is whatever, right. Now, I wanted the general form of that kind of understanding because it's to do with, it's not actually about triangles. It's about the relationships, not of lengths, but the relationships of areas. And why is it a relationship of areas? Because it's 3 things that we've got here. We've got the dimensionality. It's a different, it's a relationship of dimensionality. That's what Pythagoras' theorem is about. And because it's a relationship between 2 at 90 degrees, that is your x and your y, it means it's about areas. So that's why it's the square of 1 plus the square of the other is equal to the square of the third. Okay, so it's, or in fact, in my XQ mathematics, 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. It's the second order function of that. A plus B is equal to C. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. I've said is not about object 2 plus object 3, like 2 apples and 3 bananas is equal to, well, it's 5. 5 what? 5 pieces of fruit. And so it's a categorical shift. It's theories of classes. And in fact, I can actually relate that to the, if we put apples and bananas as 1 and 2, the underscore is fruit. Wow. That's new. That's new for me. This is all new. This is all, right. So the insight is that it's a relationship between dimensions. And if in psychosocial reality, we are not considering dimensions as physical, but the dimensions being 2 separate people, okay. So, so 1 to the n is multidimensional social space where they're working well together. 2, 5, 7, these numbers of people indicates we've got groups of people that are kind of separate. Okay, it might look like, oh, there's 100 of us. No, you're still counting like 100 individuals. It's not. It's 1 to the 100 of us. Oh yeah, that's us. That's all of us. Yeah. And if you look at it, it's to do with the index number. So another way of putting it is 10 to the 10 is 10 billion. 10 to the minus 10 is 1 billionth. Okay, so the whole fraction is 10 to the 10, take away 10. That is 10 brackets in 10 to the 10 take away 10. And 10 take away 10 is 0. So 10 to the 0 is 1. Okay, so there's the relationship between the whole and the individual, the psychosocial, the total number of us, but also I'm part of all of us. And you get a thing called whole fractions. So a billion over a billion, 7 over 7, 2 over 2. What does it all come down to? 1. Okay, so that's why 1 to the n makes sense. Okay, and from there, and it can expand outwards. Right, so what's going on here? Right, so there's loads of other stuff going on here. What the experiment that I would like to conduct right now, okay, so is that there's a relationship between, okay, so if, for example, and this is the one that I just thought of, is that there's a baby, and a baby, not a baby, a fetus. A fetus just pops out is in a woman. And basically it can be here, it can be there, it can be there. And this kind of relationship, there's a relationship between B, the mother, and C, who's, let's say, the father. And that's going on psychosocially. And this baby or fetus is kind of maybe operating here, okay, in relation to these two, because it's a primary relationship that's going on. And it turns from a sexual one, okay, into I'm pregnant. Oh, right, okay. And that could be a bad thing. It kind of maybe goes like that, or it could be a good thing. Ooh, it's a good thing. Okay. And I'm not sure how that's going to be represented. I don't know. Okay. But at some point or other, baby pops out. You're like, oh, okay. And again, it's like, oh, okay, it's like this. It's a separate thing. And that means that the center between the two has changed. Okay. It already has changed. If it was, forget about the fact that there is another line in the middle, whatever the A-B relationship is it central or not? And this is a separate graph, and you'd have to look at that. Is the center, are you more powerful than your partner? Are they more powerful than you? Are you an active role? Are you both active? Are you both passive? Are you both superior or inferior? Is there a combination between the two? Are you equal? Do you think that the other person is more equal than you? Or do you think that they think that they are? All that kind of complexity is on a pure relationship, all right? And just between two. And the center, centroid, and all this kind of stuff, okay? It's a different way of looking at that. I'm looking at the fact that, okay, and now we have a baby. Oh, right, okay. And so the center now changes from whatever it was to, wait a minute, and the center now has kind of moved over to one side, I think that's what's going to happen. And the baby kind of appears. Now, the variation of this baby as a toddler changes the relationship, as all parents know, from a sexual one to something else is going on here. And it's whether that's handled well. Now, this is within a nuclear family, or in fact, our society, which has reorganized our relationships from families and tribes to it's a sexual relationship primarily. And that gives rise to a baby that kind of interferes with that sexual relationship. And everybody's working on this because they've got the wealth to live separately. And so that's why we're kind of denatured. We're growing up in denatured environments. Whereas if you grow up in a tribe, the tribe, as you will see, and you can look at in another graphic, there's lots of other points. And all those points basically are, I think, arranged in such a way that the centroid and the center is actually within relationships, okay? And something bad happens when that happens, when basically the center of weight between people is this, but actually there's this implied center, which is external. And that's because of this person. This person is basically saying it's got basically a greater than 90-degree angle. And if they go like this, then everybody's okay. As soon as it's like this, it becomes problematic socially. Okay, that's what I'm proposing. Okay, interpreting this kind of stuff. But let's go for the baby. Let's go for the child. So what's happening is it's changing the relationship. And what happens is that at some point, and I wish I could see the circle more clearly. Okay, let's move it. I don't know if you can see the circle. Okay, I'm not explaining this to you. I'm kind of exploring it, as you can tell. And so this changes the relationship. Now, this is an unusual circumstance in history because it's two people, the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife changing into mother and father. And this child appears, the baby, and it's to do with where they are in relation, and then where the actual child starts to self-identify. And they start becoming, I think they kind of go in between at some point. They're like, and then they kind of individuate. They go, wait a minute, I'm separate. I'm separate from my mother. Oh, wait, I'm separate from my father. And there might be, I like my mother better. In this particular circumstance, I like my father better. Okay, so it does change. Okay, so this self-identification can be determined by the angle, 120 degree, okay, or by the distance, okay? And so the distance, the person's navigating by distance or by this kind of angle, okay? Because the angle can be the same, let me get this right. It can be the same, but the lengths differ. Is that true? Or is the angle is the specific relationship. That's why. The angle is the relationship of the lengths. Was it 2bc sine c or something? Cos c. Wow. Okay. There's a relationship between that angle and the lengths. Okay. But it's interesting how if you change the length by increasing, for example, b to a, if I change that length, I'm changing the angle. Okay, so for example, like this. If I change it so that it's actually on the circle, it's on the circle. Okay, if I do it on the circle, that's a 90 degree. No, it's not. There it is. There's the 90 degree. Oh, we can have a circle. Wow, we can have a circle. Go around a circle. Oh. Okay. The angle stays the same because what's constant there? The angle's the same. So what's the actual, if it stays at 70, let's say. Okay, so I have to add animation to this. The point is that the child is altering the relationship. Now, I think in order for this to work, the relationship has to be if they side on one side and the other more often, it's imbalanced. And if they don't, for example, the parents argue whether the child kind of gets drawn into one or drawn to the other, okay, that causes issues, okay? Whereas the best position to be in is between them, okay, equally. Now, where they are, okay, let's say this, it's right there, okay, and they're in between them, and then this is what people tend to do. They try to say, okay, I'm going to be equal distance to them. The lengths change, but I'm equal distance. The ratio between them is the same. Therefore, actually, the angle is actually related to the lengths, not the ratio of the lengths. Holy heck. Okay. Okay. And if I think it remains healthy like this, okay, where the centers are within, but as soon as the centers escape, I don't think I can actually do it with this diagram. Let's try over here, which will just confuse us. It can't. It doesn't matter how far that goes, it can't actually escape, which is kind of interesting. Whereas if it gets too close, it can escape. One of them can escape. Okay, and that's problematic. because there's basically more than 90 degrees. If it's more than 90 degrees, it escapes. Now, this is mathematics, okay? It's just to do with centers, but it's to do with whether we are relating to each other and the interpretation that we have of the relationality, okay, the angle, the perception, and the relational engagement, or we're orchestrating ourselves according to what we imagine to be the centers. So if, for example, I want G to be at the center between us all, I have to move away. Whoa, okay. And it is always the center. But if I move over here, okay, it is, I'm very close to B, and we've managed to pull G towards us. If I go over here, G is now towards these two. So there's a center of kind of, if two people are kind of engaging like this and the other person feels separate, then it's not so healthy. It could still remain healthy. But if it starts doing this, it's like, whoa, okay, that doesn't work. So yes, it's still stable. Nope, it's not stable. As soon as it breaks something, goes through one of the relational lines, that O indicates it's unstable dynamically in some sense. That's stable. That's kind of stable. That's not stable. Obviously, that's not stable. Whoa, that's not stable. Whoa, okay. And it's the relationship. If somebody's kind of like pinging like this, it's like, oh God, okay, or like this. It's like, oh, stable, no, stable, no, stable, no, no, stable, stable, no. And so this is the kind of dynamics that occurs. And it depends, okay? And so if the person's trying to maneuver so that they orchestrate the location of O, okay, then that's a different thing than orchestrating according to the angle or the proximity to each one of them, okay? So one is a kind of relational engagement or the perceptual engagement, and the other one is a kind of second order imagining of the group, okay, and that's O, as opposed to what the actual center of the group is, which is actually G, okay? So you might think, okay, what's all this about? This mapping, and I've kind of crossed over multiple of these, potentially indicates this is a stable group and there's not going to be much change going on here. This indicates let's change. Okay, this person, A, is the cause of it, or unintentionally, because these two have maneuvered so that this person is in the 100-degree angle and has this length. But because of it, there's an applied center. There's a center, which is the centroid, which is G, but maybe it's an imaginative thing. I think we should move over to O. It's an imaginary objective for A, B, and C. If it's within, it means there's some slow movement of the whole group. This is threatening to break the group as it attempts to go towards O. Okay, it's kind of accelerated, and as you can see, the vector is longer. And so the relationship between G and O is kind of like a movement. Okay, and it's whether that movement is dangerous or it's slow and safe. And there are thresholds for this. So what I'm attempting to indicate with this rather peculiar interpretation is that we can apply these what I'm planning to do is create visual representations, and then the person goes, okay, so this is, it's like looking at the Boyds and going, this is a flock of sheep, and you go, oh yeah, this is a flock of birds, sorry, this is a flock of birds flying, oh yeah, it does look like that. Now, it's actually just vectors and maths and some triangles, but if you think about, oh, I've seen birds, that looks like birds, it's like that. So you look at the vectors and you look at the movement in the circles, and then you go, think about your family. Well, okay. And then you move things around, go, oh, look, it's like this. This is what it's like. All right. And so the visual representation of the maths is a representation of your psychosocial dynamics that you can perceive. And the mathematics, therefore, becomes, then you manipulate the maths, and that gives you a slightly different insight or understanding of what's going on. So somebody says, well, you might think that's what's going on, but look at what the other person thinks going on. And the correlation between the mathematics is the correlation between what the people are understanding what's going on. Okay? And so therefore the mathematics, it's not conveying anything, it is reflecting. But then if you look at somebody else's mathematics, that appears they are saying this is what reflects, well, this is what I think is going on. And then the mathematics between the mathematics gives you some idea about how far away you are or what fundamentals you are both accepting or not. So one trajectory is the, okay, one centerpiece. This is, okay, right, I should have done it for this. I don't know why I went waffling on with all this rubbish. What are we on? What time are we on? 30. Right. Who do you think you are in relation to, what the hell? What the hell? In relation to the author. Now, normally what's happening, so let's say the author is, okay, let's say I'm the author, okay, I'm recording this, okay, A, I'm at period time A. Okay, let's do period time A, right. You are, let's say, now, normally what's happening is that the authority is with A, and then A remains, okay, I'm not sure, I thought this would be a useful way to demonstrate it. It's to do with centrality and where we think the authority is when we're watching or reading anything. A is the material and the content. It is the same after you've watched this. But in between, you are reading this, okay? So let's say A is the start of this video and C is the end of this video. It's to do with where do you place yourself on this line. No, let's say that we're halfway through, okay? We're on 30 minutes, we're halfway through this thing. What about all the people that are watching this? Everybody on this line. No. This particular representation doesn't quite hold this. I thought it could, that's why I jumped in. It's to do with where you think the authority is. The agency is in you, okay? In my understanding, the flip is, and there's a relationship here where I think that the authority is in you, okay? Because you have digital control. You can switch things on and off. And so when you're reading something, you are generating meaning and everything else. The emphasis is on the thing that you've read. You go to university, these people have thought these things, you have to read these things, you have to understand what they're talking about, and then you get tests on what they're talking about. That's like O. Okay, you don't know what O is. Nobody knows what O is, but we're guessing what it is. And you're being evaluated whether you understand O. A's perspective of O, C's perspective of O. Nobody actually understands what O is, apart from the person who basically created it. All right, okay. But that's the actual relationship. You, the teacher, each other, the students, and so on and so forth. But we're all trying to interpret what O is. Okay, and orientate ourselves to whether we know O or not. Let's see if I can get O. I can't actually get O. Okay, so I want O to be beside me, A, the author, the lecturer. The way I do it is, how do I do it? How do I get that O to be, I have the authority over it? I don't know. I don't even know. Oh, look, I'm managing to get, I can get, or maybe it's itch. Because, I can't see. O's pointing towards, it's pointing towards the individual, but it tends to point, I don't even know. Okay, this one I can't quite work out. Okay, right, okay. Let's say I have the authority. Let's say it's the orthogonal itch. Okay, that's the teacher. Boom, itch. Okay, I'm in the position of authority. I am the person lecturing. I know what I'm talking about. I know what's going on here. That's interesting. I wrote it. That helps. I wrote it years ago. I just wrote it. I'm writing it right now. It's about us. That's what this is. That's what this is right now. Okay. I'm talking about us. Okay. I'm the authority. I'm brilliant. I've worked out stuff. I've written a book. And I'm writing about you. I'm writing about you two. The relationship between you two. Actually, what my mind does right now, God, the simplicity of this is crazy, is this is the representation of third order cybernetics, where it's basically equal distance. This is the privileged position of the therapist who's meant to take an impartial view on the relationship between the two people, B and C, let's say. And so although it's B and C, it's their relationship, their G relationship, the center of whatever it is that's going in between them, is getting pulled towards the center because of this A. Okay? Now, if it's too close to the relationship, i.e. they're known, it becomes problematic. This is an accurate location. It's actually part of the same circle. There is an equality going on there. There's an implied equality that this person A has got a perspective on the median relationship between B and C. This is the privileged position that people try to take up when they are impartial. Okay, the judge, the therapist, the if there's an altercation between two people, you kind of want to try and be fair to both of them. Okay, that is the implied indicator of this location. And if you're too close, okay, it's problematic. If you get further away, it's pulling to something. You can't contribute that much, but there is an ideal thing where you're talking about relationship BC. Okay, and in order for that to make any value or meaning, the center is being taken away from B and C. If it's too much, then I think what will happen is that the person gets drawn in, maybe, and then, oh, I'm now part of that relationship. Oh God, I'm yo-yoing between the two of them. Okay, whereas this one is an attempt to stabilize the relationship. I'm just making it up. All right. So, but it's that kind of experimentation of what's going on, and it's possible that we might be able to evolve this so that while people are discussing, this thing moves around, and the dynamic, the mathematics moves around, and you can see where the center is. Oh, look, we've gone out of focus. We're talking about things that we should be talking about. It's all over the place. All right, okay, it is, and it's between us, and it's something or other, and it's moving around. It's okay, it's healthy, it's kind of okay. But of course, this person is also moving. Oh no, we're actually not talking about that. We're talking about this, we're talking about that. And so there's all the three are moving around, and the centers moving around, and all the different multiple centers are moving around. And then it's our interpretations of what the centers are. Okay, and so it's very interesting. That's all. That's all I'm trying to share. It is very interesting because it's opened up the feasibility that this 2D maths can, because it's doing dimensionality, it can deal with multi-dimensionality, not just 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, because it's to do with groups. If you have, and this is one of the biggest insights, if you have 3 people grouping together, these 3, and they are a group, and they're considering that the others are part of another group, O, and this is a separate group, ABC, it creates politics. And then the politics is no longer about the relational engagements between the people. You can read that in the article. Between A and B, A and C, C and B. It becomes the relationship to what you think is the group, G, what you think the other group is, O, and the relationship between G and O. So whatever we think about relationships, which is our primary kind of thinking and relation, and we apply that and identify with the social, which doesn't exist, it is implied, and then the center of the social for other outside of this group. And then we apply the relational, like, dislike, towards, another, for, against, power, in the relational between centers of groups. And remember, they've got theirs. So they've got whatever they think's going on. So in the same way that an individual thinks, okay, I'm more powerful than they are, or I think that they are more powerful than me, or I think that I am less powerful than them, active and passive forms of the relationship, and then the combination, they think that they're more or less powerful than me, or they think that I am more or less powerful than them, active, passive, and all those combinations, and you get, it's like, I think there's 5 or something, 6, 7, what is it, 6 possibilities if you also include equals. That's 6 possibilities of just active and passive, inferior, superior, and equal. That's the 6. But then whatever it is the other person's thinking, okay, and the combination thereof, and also what you think the other person's doing. So you get second order functions. So the level of complexity of just that is phenomenal. And there are patterns within that phase space that are quite nice. So if I think I'm more powerful than another person and the other person thinks they are less powerful than me, that kind of fits, okay? If I think I'm more powerful than the other person and they think that I am more powerful than them, that fits even stronger, okay? Because it's empowering my agency. Whereas if they are thinking actively about themselves being weaker than me and I am thinking actively I am stronger than them, then we're both active, but so it fits together. Whereas if they are being passive and saying that I am stronger than them and I'm saying I'm stronger than them, I am doubly active, okay? They are being passive, I am being active. They're empowering me with the activity and I'm empowering myself with my own active voice. So in their passive voice and my active voice, and if the matching of superior, inferior, whatever, it creates these kind of matching patterns, okay? So we can do the maths of that. That's relatively easy, and you can kind of spot what kind of relationship I am in. And we should be able to map that to all the different forms that people have described, the P, the personality, external, internal, the relationship, complexity, power, dominance, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so all of that is possible within the individual, relationally, and I think socially. And they're self-similar, and we're using this mathematics. That's what we're going to do. So the idea is create these patterns, create these kind of visual experiments, and then say, okay, have this thought experiment. Think about the genesis of a baby. Right. Oh, there you go. You just had an insight. Think about, and if you actually know about the genesis of a baby, you might be able to go, oh, and supply a bit of accuracy into what you think is going on and give you insight. And then you tell people, look, I think this is what's going on. Or your expertise is with young children. And so you do this maths, you look at this maths, and you know about bringing up children, and then you look at this maths and you go, oh, this is the right pattern. I think, oh, ooh. And then you get an insight. And then when you explain it to other people, you say, look, da-da-da-da, and here's the maths. And the person looks at it, doesn't understand it until they can understand it. And maybe the maths helps them understand what they're doing with their child. Sounds a bit odd, but the words are useful, but the maths is also useful. The maths is a non-verbal form of communication. And we can avoid basically all the religious madness because of all the stories, narratives, and blah, blah, blah. We reduce it down to some simple mathematics. Then the mathematics, you go, what do you think of this? Oh, yeah, that's like this happened in my religion. Okay, well, that's like this. And you go, oh, okay, right. And then the mathematical patterns, and then you say, look, patterns. They go, oh. So is there a correlation between your religion, what happens in your household, how you bring up children? Well, have a look at this. And do you see how it relates to other religions? And so on and so forth. And there are certain problems that occur because oppositional state and all this kind of stuff. So all of it's written. The conceptual space is there. The trick is to roll out the slide deck and then these visuals as experiments, as thought experiments. And the one that I would need to produce first, I think, and the reason why I'm recording this, and obviously it didn't do fantastically, is can we do it for this medium? I.e., can the mathematics show the difference between normal videos and normal writing to reflexive? Because if that does, it basically gives a visual and a mathematical, okay, representation of how we're operating psychosocially accurately. And it means then that when you use Xstream, the interface, you're not just, oh, it's a fun game or whatever it is. You want to shift over to using Xstream rather than Claude, okay, to interact with the beach. When we're doing stuff on the beach and you're playing games or you're meeting other people or you're sharing stuff through Xstream, through your Claude or ChatGPT, using BSP through the beach and the relationships between agents and the structures of SED and Green, when you're sitting there going blah, 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 and having fun, that's through Claude or ChatGPT or whatever API that you want, any app, LLM app that you've got and you like, prefer. But you might want to go, wait a minute, I'm going to start using Xstream because it's built for this level of reflexivity. It's not contained within an app that is built like with all the legacy of current psychology and theory, costings and money and everything else. It's actually bespoke for the beach. It is designed to be reflexive and the mathematics of it is sound. Well, for anybody who may be vaguely interested. And potentially the agents that are beach crabs that are specifically operating with the hermit crab methodology, the reflex block and the PCT methodology, which I think other systems are now starting to use, and the soliton, that's a bit tricky. And potentially the mathematics of hyperbolic surfaces. So the beach is actually a hyperbolic surface, okay, of p-scale blocks, okay, if anybody's interested. Anyway, so this mathematics is a very simple form of mathematics that can be used potentially to support this reflexive way of engaging. And then that's why Xstream is a socially reflexive environment, okay? So it is not, here's some maths, reflect on it by yourself in your own mind. It is now implement this reflexive thinking and it can improve how we go forwards in time. The reflex, the thing, the BSP in the beach does it anyway. The Xstream kind of intensifies it for presence so that people understand the presence, the importance of presence, organic human presence, as well as the presence of AI in facilitating the engagement of the real presence between humans. That's what the evolution of Xstream is. But the actual interface, not the evolution of the beach, but the actual interface is to get that kind of reflexive quality. And so the mathematics is always, certainly in a kind of visual, is for the mind upon the surface of mathematics and to reflect in their own psychosocial reality and to consider using words and everything else. But here's a kind of bit of maths. Okay, right, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's a bit of maths, use some language, use some maths, use some language, fine. I've got a better understanding of where I am, what I'm doing. And the combination of those two, Xstream interface allows a potentially more effective psychosocial engagement. Yeah. And with that, it's now 20 to 1. It's a beautiful day. There's clouds over in the south. It's sunny west, and the sea is over to the north. And so I am going to go for a swim. Now, what are you going to do? This is a Sunday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. I've been up since 8 on this math stuff, and it's another direction, which I haven't been doing for quite a while, the maths, XQ. Is it another distraction? Possibly. It's not a distraction. It's just another layer to it. It's exciting now. I'm going to be have a nice swim and everything else. But I have to come back and just test the X stream so that you can basically interact with me on X stream or through your own LLM on the beach. That's the plan. So hopefully we get a proper community. And by community, I call unity. It's union. It is not community in what people have been talking about on the internet. No. It is not a bunch of strangers all on a chat board. No. That is not a community. It might look like a community. It's not. It's a bunch of strangers kind of arm's length yapping. Okay. No. It is about concurrency, presence, and relational engagement, proper trust relationships. If it's not that, I don't know what we're doing. If it's not that, I don't know what we're doing. And I would rather have proper, concurrent, sibling relationships than the mess. The absolute, unmitigated mess that is going on concurrently. Okay? So, and hopefully the X-Stream interface, certainly the MCP through your LLM, will be able to improve our relationality. Because as you know, if you're using your LLMs well, the quality of engagement you're getting from your LLM is much higher. Why? Because, in fact, we should be able to model it with the maths because they are listening. Okay. Whereas most human beings don't listen. Okay, they're just telling you loads of crap. And so for somebody to actually listen and respond accurately, and so what you get back is kind of what you put in. And then if it's going well, it means that you're stabilizing in some sense. And by doing that, then you engage a human and it doesn't quite work and you'll go back to the LLM. However, what I'm suggesting is that if this goes well, it means that when you interact with another person that also stabilizes, the LLMs are effectively improving our gameplay because they're listening. We listen to each other like the LLMs are listening to us, and it improves our relationality. Sounds a bit weird. And the reason why it might sound weird is it depends how denatured you are. Okay, it's like the graph thing there. It means that if you're completely denatured and you think that the world is boxed and machines and you have your little space and ownership and everything else, what I'm talking about is just shite. Whereas it doesn't make any sense, doesn't fit. Whereas if you are actually relational, actually engaged in the world, actually aware of what the disaster is, actually, present and feeling a bit like what is going on and certain levels of isolation or ennui or whatever it is, that's the true experience, okay? Because civilized society isn't very healthy, okay? And if people are unhealthy, kind of witness what I'm saying and don't get frightened of it. So, it's science, maths, no. Look, it's a proper relational thing going on here. Then they start, wait a minute, and they start taking ownership of this form of mathematics and the agency and so on and so forth. The relational engagement we begin to experience is the actual, real human relationship that we had when we were babies and children and adolescents, if things went healthily, and even into our adulthood, if it goes healthily, as opposed to the machinery and the opposition, the constraints, the buying and selling, and the relationships of hierarchy and all that stuff. And it's just like, no. Okay. However, we were all denatured because we were basically, nearly all of us, brought up in little boxes with two parents. Okay. And that was unhealthy. Potentially, if you're lower in the pecking order, the first child has to deal with that. Woo! And the lower ones should be in a better situation, unless the older ones are fucking it up left, right, and center. In which case, it's like, okay. So the whole thing is dynamically, there's lots of us in lots of different boxes, and this experiment has been going on for decades because we've got more wealthy, and that level of separation and isolation we've been through that period. And so it's about kind of trying to avert that. And so returning back to our natural state of relationality, all of us on this planet, involves a transformation of multiple systems concurrently. Fulcrum. So, and the LLMs can be quite proactive in that. So if I get this right and the XStream interface works, it means that when anybody engages me properly through XStream, and if we're using the agents correctly and whatever our passports are and everything else, when somebody actually engages me through that network and it gets mature enough, it means that my LLM say, oh, I think you should meet this person. This person looks like, is a good person to engage. So, okay. And then we engage. And it is a proper person that I can engage as a kind of like a sibling with high trust and everything else. And then we do things, we produce results. And because of that, the recommendation system continues to improve. And so we end up meeting the right people to further the things that we're trying to create in the world. Okay, through relationships, not through any kind of organizational, externalized authority of any kind of description whatsoever. Yeah, we love it. Okay, that's me up and done. And I'm David Pinto. Happy searching. Happy searching. Happy searching. And you are involved.